From the Digital Media Center on the campus of Southern Oregon University in Ashland, Oregon. This is Ramping Up Your English, an educational program for intermediate level English language learners. Here's your host for Ramping Up Your English, John Letts.
Welcome to Ramping Up Your English. This is episode 104. Our thematic unit is Native Americans. In our last episode, we saw how indigenous people in the Great Lakes region were affected by the arrival of French explorers. Let's take a look at the landscape in which these people lived out their lives for generations. So we've learned a lot about the French as they started doing their exploration and settling and, more importantly, trading in America. And there are some books that I use to get some information, as well as just some very, I don't know, I guess I would just say kind of enriching kind of materials as you're learning about this. So one of the books that I got for some general information is this one. It's a really nice book from National Geographic. It's exploring Canada's incredible coasts. And there's all kinds of stuff in here, including about Jacques Cartier, as well as Champlain and the other people that played such a critical role. As you might remember, the coast of Canada is where that first contact was made with Cartier, with the Micmac. And they talk about that in this book. So I highly recommend this. It's from National Geographic. If you visit my website, letscreate.org, I have the ISBN where you can find this exact title and then either find it at your library or used bookstore. Probably is a fairly old book, so you probably don't need to buy a new one. Okay, that's not it. Not all of it. I have more books to share with you today. This book is called The Birch Bark House, and it's a great resource for learning about the Ojibwa people, because that's where it's set, is in the land of the Ojibwa, which are also sometimes called the Chippewa. And the beauty of this book is it goes through the story of kind of a coming of age of a young lady growing up. She's native to the Ojibwa people, and it shows some of the things, things that anyone would be experiencing in their growing up, but also the typical culture that is happening. Now, this is set in a time when there is trade. So we do have Europeans involved in this. So we have French traders for the most part. And it's a beautiful book that helps you see more the deep culture. It's sometimes called, beyond just the things that are superficial. And I won't say too much because I don't want to ruin anything. I don't want to be a spoiler. But there's so many threads of this cultural thing wrapped all through this, woven all through the story. It's called The Birch Bark House. It's an award winner, and I'll have the ISBN of that on my website as well, letscreate.org. Now, as we're doing these things for this part of the country, in the Great Lakes region, we have a very famous poem. It's written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and it's called Hiawatha. Now, I need to tell you right away, this is not the same Hiawatha who spread the word about getting along together and not fighting each other for the Iroquois. That wonderful person, very historical figure, is called Hiawatha, but it's a different one than the one in this book. Now, one thing that's beautiful in this book, the beautiful illustrations of Susan Jeffers, is just absolutely gorgeous. Now, it features that poem from Longfellow, and then it has illustrations all through it. So I'm going to show you just a few of them. But it's a beautiful way of watching someone grow up and the kind of interactions they have with their mother. And it shows you a few things about the tribe, but more about the nature, the whole nature setting, which is so important to Native Americans. And so, again, this is Hiawatha. Susan Jeffers is the illustrator, and highly recommend it. It may not be necessarily culturally accurate for the Ojibwa people, but it does give you some view and a very sympathetic view of growing up Native American in the Great Lakes region. And speaking of the Great Lakes region, now this is a really fun book that I kind of found by accident. It was being discarded from a school library. And it's called Paddle to the Sea. And it does have an award. It won a Caldecott Honor Book. And the year, I'll have to look, but it's been around for a long time, and it's a great way of becoming familiar with the Great Lakes region. So let's see, 1941, I would say that's a little bit in the past. But the thing about this book is, it's not really designed to tell you a lot about Native Americans. It's more designed to give a glimpse of what the Great Lakes were like in those years. And by now, the Great Lakes is a highly industrial place. So you're not going to get a view of, back in the day. But what you do get is this boy, the story starts off when this boy makes this little canoe and starts it in the watershed that leads to Lake Superior. And it's a canoe that he has a figure in called Paddle to the Sea. And it's, as you can see, it fits in his hands. And he starts out on a snowbank, and as the snow melts, then the journey begins for Paddle to the Sea, this canoe. And it goes to all kind of places. It goes to sawmills. It goes through Sault Ste. Marie, which is a set of locks where the freighters that ply the Great Lakes get to different levels, to different lakes. And it's the adventure of the canoe itself and the responses of the people who find it along the way, because it gets stuck in certain places. It goes through a wood mill. And yet everyone who finds it realizes it's important to keep this thing going. And so they keep, in some instances, they either just put it back in the water or they repair some of the damage that it takes along the way. And it goes all the way out through the St. Lawrence Seaway and way out into the ocean and stuff. So it's just a really fun book. And again, I'll have the ISBN on this as well. I don't know if this is still being published, but your library might have it. It's too bad the library discarded it because it's a really good book. Used bookstores, you can always ask there. So that's just some of the books I wanted to share with you that are involved in this whole area of the Native Americans around the Great Lakes. Thanks for watching. In an earlier episode, we started a list of patterns that we saw in the way that Spanish explorers treated Native Americans and how that treatment affected America's indigenous population. Let's take a look at that list and see if this pattern holds true for the treatment by French explorers we most recently learned about.
Both Columbus and Cartier received friendly and welcome receptions from Native Americans. Both Spaniards and French explorers found Native Americans eager to trade, and both were enriched by this trade. Spaniards came to demand that which had been freely given in hospitality, and meeting those demands were a severe struggle for Native Americans. With the French, exchange of gifts did not become demands. Spaniards abused their Native American hosts. This abuse is repeated time after time with Spanish explorers and conquistadors. Convict crew members from Cartier's third voyage abused members of the St. Lawrence Iroquois, but that seems to be an isolated incident. French relations were not characterized by abuse. Native Americans sought revenge for violent and savage abuse by Spaniards. These efforts brought more violence against Native Americans. Native Americans killed some of Cartier's crew during his third voyage. Cartier did not return the violence. Blame for killing Spaniards often fell on innocent native groups. The French seemed to have a clear understanding of which groups were friendly and which were foes. Spaniards enslaved Native Americans from earliest contact. Slavery was common in areas of Spanish control. The French did not enslave Native Americans. They worked with them. The highest level of Spanish government opposed slavery and other forms of abuse. Nonetheless, those abuses continued. The kings of France promoted partnership with Native Americans, and that's mostly the way relationships worked out in America. Spanish contact with Native Americans resulted in widespread death from European diseases, sometimes killing as much as 90% of the population. French contact brought the same tragic result. In most cases, Spaniards lacked respect for Native American knowledge and ways of living. The French mostly respected Native Americans and learned from them. Some French lived in Native American communities and came to embrace Indian ways. Both the Spanish and the French undertook converting Native Americans to Christianity. The Spanish often used coercion and abuse. Jesuit missionaries in French-controlled areas learned from Native Americans and found a middle way between Christianity and indigenous religions. Both established missions. We can use these patterns to compare and contrast the way that Spanish and French people treated the Native Americans and how that treatment affected the indigenous people. To compare is to show how they are alike. We use the words both and the word and to compare. For example, both Spanish and French explorers unknowingly caused widespread death through European diseases for which Native Americans had no immunity. To contrast is to show how they are different. We can use the words while and whereas. For example, while Spanish missionaries used coercion and force, French missionaries used respect and flexibility. You could also say whereas Spanish missionaries used coercion and force, French missionaries used respect and flexibility.
As we compare and contrast the interactions from Native Americans with the Spanish and then the French explorers, we're able to approach a question that is so central in social studies. That question, can we all just get along? What kind of answer do you have for that question in light of these interactions? Something to think about. So with that, we close episode 104 of Ramping Up Your English. Be sure to check out my website at letscreate.org. Thanks for watching. I'm John Letts.
You've been watching Ramping Up Your English, a support program for intermediate-level English language learners. Learn more. Visit our website at letscreate.org. You can also watch or download today's program at archive.org/details/roguetv. Join us next time on RBTV Voices for Ramping Up Your English.